Ep10.
Hello and welcome to Slash Dupe, the movie pitching podcast with a twist. Everybody gets the same title, some time to prepare, and then brings that idea to the table. So we have a very different episode today because hopefully this will set a good precedent going forward with our guests. But Ryan is normally our resident dupe, but actually today our guest is the dupe, and that is Daria. So Daria, how are you feeling about being the dupe? Your first time on the podcast and you haven't been given the title in advance.
I feel great about it because I didn't quite understand what was the difference, but as far as I understood is that you give me a title this episode and I come up with a concept, and I like that because I hate overthinking things and I much prefer improvising. So
yeah, that's a great answer. And as you said, there isn't really much of a difference because I think most of us come up with the idea like 10 minutes beforehand or the day before anyway. So I think that there isn't much of a difference. But no, I'm
thanks for devaluing me, Sean.
I'm including myself. I'm including myself in that. You know, we're all in this together. So to that end, our other two guests who have been given the title ahead of time are Ryan. Ryan, how are you feeling about having the title for the first time ever in advance?
It's been a nice, refreshing change. So I think I love being a dupe. I really do. As Daria said, you know, it's that creativity, the sort of being improvising, coming up with stuff on the spot is really, really fun. But, you know, because I was given this title ahead of time, it gave me an opportunity to sort of do that, but over a longer period of time. So really sit there, flesh my ideas out, not having to worry about coming up with the idea and being able to sort of be co-host as well.
So let me just, Dan, it's not the first time, is it? It's the second time.
It's not the first time.
We had a chat about this a minute ago, and I knew it was the second time, but you told me it was the first time.
Lockdown.
Yeah, the lockdown
you
episode.
had your own title.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So let me just sort of put a thing at the end.
Dupe, though, did we?
No. And so you had the title ahead of time, obviously, for the lockdown episode, but this is the first episode where you're not the dupe.
Yeah, okay.
So, and the other, our following guest who has had the title in advance is Dan. Dan, how are you feeling today?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling, as always.
Good. And so am I. I'm Sean, your peerless moderator. And at the end of the episode, I will be picking a winner. But to find out what happens to the winner, you have to listen to the halfway point. So I think it's a good time to tell everyone our title. So this is for Daria as well, our dupe. The title of today's episode is Knock and Loose. Knock and Loose. Okay, so Ryan, so against all odds, normally you come in third. Let's bring you in first. I'd like to hear your idea for Knock and Loose, your previously prepared idea for Knock and Loose.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Sean. So my idea for Knock and Loose, it comes with the internet and the world's love of creepypastas and the sort of The Grudge being remade recently, and the Slender Man film as well. So I've decided to go for a horror film. Now, if you know me, I do not like horror movies at all.
Yes.
Right? They absolutely do their job. They scare the life out of me. But I sort of know enough about the way that it's sort of filmed. So, and also I just want to know that I've changed the writing of the title. So it's knock as in Knock, like you would do on a door. And so the idea is it would be centered around a few families, you know, the small town in America, lovely, sleepy, sort of like the town in Iron Man 3 that he goes to. That sort of lovely, sleepy town, but with those sort of big wooden Gothic houses, sort of the creepy houses. So the idea would be there's a shale mine nearby, and this company has sort of bought it, and they've moved their prospector out there. I assume prospector's still a job, if you, but that sort of, but then their finance guy, like the head engineer, like they've moved a bunch of families out there to run it. Actually, our grandfather used to do that in the tobacco industry. He would be moved out to a location, and he would have to set up the factory, buy the machinery, hire all the staff, like do all that sort of stuff.
Taste the leaves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I like the idea.
He knew tobacco. That was what they used to say about him. They used to say, "Oh, Grandpa Popsy knew tobacco."
They're best friends. So you know, like they're going through the town, and you see it's lovely, sleepy. You hear the bell ringing, and you know, and they get to know everyone. They sort of the people that get moved there. They know each other, like because the families have all met at functions or whatever.
And the time period is what now?
Yeah, it's like a now sort of film. And then But I think the whole thing is this town has a seedy sort of like Hot Fuzz has a seedy underbelly. Some things it's almost too perfect. And then as they're going on their day to day, there's one of the like younger adults starts to befriend some of the people, and then you sort of hear the bell ringing again, and then they like die in like a car accident or something like that. Even though they're just sort of it's people just move there, it's a bit weird. Um, I think I like this idea of the mum going to pick up their kids. The mum who I've cast as Bryce Dallas Howard as well. She goes to pick up the kids and she's sort of waiting there, and she hears like the double like kids playing double dutch, and she hears and sort of this idea of like her looking out the car window watching the kids play double dutch, and she hears them singing. Dan, you might want to put some kind of effect on my voice when you're editing this, but this idea of them singing like a creepy kids rhyme as they're playing double dutch. So it would be, I'm gonna try and count myself.
So you've written the rhyme for
I
us?
have written the rhyme here.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
So it'll go.
This is a first. I'm ready for
So
this.
it'll go. All right, I've got to try and count myself in. Right, so it'll go. Hangman John lived on the hill with his family, calm and still. The boys would play and the girls would run until the bell in the town had rung. John would go put on his mask, walk to the gallows quick and fast. When the bad man was in the news, John said, "Knock 3 times, and I'll set them loose."
Oh,
So she sort of,
okay.
and it's just like one of these things
All
she
right.
hears the sort of kids,
Yeah.
and so as after that point, you then begin to realise that the people from the families are starting to get hunted down and killed. And
From the family, the prospectors.
the prospector and the finance guy and the mining expert and all those people, the people. So like maybe one of their kids goes to one of the kids is like, in his sort of 21 or whatever, bit rebellious, goes to the bar, like gets honey trapped, smokes some of the doobs, but then you sort of like gets out in an OD or something like, or a drink drive or something like that. All these people start. And every time something happens, the bell starts ringing, and so we're sort of getting to understand that these guys have got to get out there, but they're not really understanding how it works. Sort of in the rhyme, like when I talk about like the family being calm and still, maybe it means that like Hangman John's family like are dead, and sort of the boys and the girls are the people who used to be in the town that he used to hang, and that's sort of going through. So I think something will probably happen with. Sorry, go on, Dan.
I jump in on the rhyme. Your last line. What's the last line of the rhyme?
John said, "Knock 3 times, and I'll set them loose."
That's when it just has to go and loose, right? For your wow moment.
Yeah.
And
John
loose.
said, "Knock 3 times and loose."
And loose.
Yeah.
Also nicer scansion.
Yeah.
And it's I like the idea of them getting they realise what's going on, like they're sort of then the town like will capture them and take them to like the gallows, and there'll be someone there.
So the whole town's in on it.
The whole town's in it because the new shale mine is opening up, and it's obviously gonna, like shale mining is like the worst way to get fossil fuels out, because you have to burn it, there's like risking, and it's upset a lot of American towns where these companies have, mining companies have discovered shale mines, bought them, and then obviously like upset the picture perfect village that it used to be.
So is it that they say you think it's going to be a horror with a demon or a ghost or some sort of like sort of serial killer type sort of guy that can come back from the dead, but really it's the town using the old folklore story of the hangman to drive these people out of the town.
That's why I talked about it being a creepypasta at the top, because those sort of internet myths. Annabelle's another great one where it's real. You can go visit the Annabelle doll, and people still have this really creepy vibe about it, and they don't want to upset it because of all these sort of things that happen. So I think someone, they get put in the gallows and something goes wrong, and they realise like we've got to get the hell out of here, but how are we going to make a distraction? And they're like, right, we need to set the shale mine on fire because that's going to burn for ages, and that's going to be such a huge sort of thing that's going to get us out there. So they sort of like go to the mine, and they get chased. They go into an old house, and it's John's old house, Hangman John's old house up on the hill, and that's where they sort of see the bodies and the old nooses and stuff like that. But then he had like a secret way like down into the mine shaft, so then they're able to like get through there, rig it. The sort of the mining expert, he's the guy, he's got
So they go down
sacrifice
into the mine and then have to get back out of it,
Yeah.
basically, into their own.
to set it so they can
Right,
set
I
the
like
whole thing
that.
up.
And
so
they're
it'll
all
burn.
characters that basically would never have really gone into a mine for
No,
very
I
long.
think
They go in, they test stuff, and then they let the workmen go in.
Yeah, and they're but they know it though. So the mining, he knows about the mines, he knows about shell mines. He's the one going in, making sure that it's all. So that then, in 6 months' time, they get the whole workforce out here, the trucks, everything like that. But they need to be here to sort of, they have to get the planning permission. So I've got the main lead guy. I've got Will Travers. So he was in Jessica Jones and Messiah. Sort of lovely jawline. Daria?
Yeah. I have a bunch of structural questions.
Sure, go for it.
So your so it's a family that moves into this town.
There's a couple of families, I think.
A couple of families, and they move there. Why?
Because the big oil company has said there's a shale mine here. We need you to move to the town.
Establish your presence.
Get the planning permission. As well as
the wives
investigate
maybe
it.
go and sort of run their influence in the wives' circles.
Yeah, and
as
they've moved
well,
the kids. The kids have already got put into schools there and stuff like that. So they've sort of. It could also be that there's a family that's maybe used to doing this. Like as we said at the beginning, like our grandfather, he'd go to one country 12 months, set it up, come back home to India, and then go to another one and go do it again. So maybe they're used to the fact of moving around.
So then one of the mothers of the newcomers hears her own kids sing that rhyme.
No, she's waiting to pick her kids up from school, and she's sort of like looking out the window, and there's some other kids singing it. And that's sort of the first time it's sort of that weird, you just got the window down and you're just sort of listening while you're waiting, and that's when she sort of first hears it. But that establishes like the history and the sort of it establishes the creepypasta, the sort of the slender man.
Did the kids eventually pick up on that and they start singing it too?
Maybe they'll start humming it like at home or something like that,
Yeah.
And, or you're right. Or they maybe start playing it. She sees her kids like playing in the street with it, with the other kids sort of doing it. Just sort of it was quite. It's quite weird. I can see it from like the sort of the camera, like sort of from inside the car, almost like zooming in slowly, like over her shoulder.
So, final, I said a bunch. I still have them. What is the problem if that's a couple of families who are connected to the oil industry? They're extremely rich. What's the problem for them in just pack up and leave, or call the oil company and say that things are weird?
I think it would almost be a little bit too late. So like the deaths are almost like accidents, right? Like I said, it's a drink driving incident or something like that. That's that could just be conceived as an accident. I mean, that's very hot fuzz. I do get that.
Yeah, very hot fuzz.
Yeah, no, it is. But the idea of like it's
but less funny and more genuinely scary.
Yeah, and what sort of stops them sort of the fact that they don't really know anything's wrong until like the point where they all sort of get kidnapped. Like if the guy's running into planning permission trouble, he's had to do this in loads of towns before. He knows about this sort of thing. So like a red flag to hit for if his planning permission getting stopped is not the end of the world for him. That's why he's been moved out there, because then he works the crowds and he finds out the right sort of tweaks. And I think it's only at the point where that like the town mob descend upon these guys, put them in the gallows for whatever reason. That's when they're like, right, we've got to get the hell out of it. Me and you. So I've got.
But it is an excellent question though, Daria. It is because films like TV shows like Ozark or films like Apostle, for example, on Netflix, the character has a reason to stay in a scenario that really sort of seems to be on the turn, isn't it? Because in Ozark, I believe he's
a money man.
Yeah, he's desperate. He has to do it. There are other forces sort of convincing him. So yeah, I think establishing that is quite key, isn't it? Establishing the reason that keeps him there.
Same with Hot Fuzz. He's there for work. Can't leave.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. Like,
yeah, so you push that similar thing.
Opening that town. He's opening the mine. He's opened up these before. He knows what he's doing, and it's only when they sort of they all descend.
Yeah, one or two accidents is suspicious, but then suddenly, like with speed,
it becomes a pattern, and then. And I think So I've got Will Travers as the main guy, Bryce Dallas Howard's his wife. I've got Paul Walter Hauser as the mining expert. Now he was the guy that was in I, Tonya and Richard Jewell recently.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
Great actor. And
I didn't know his name, but he's a great actor.
Yeah, that's sort of. I think he played good. You know, he probably have to do something like sacrifice himself at the end. You know, the goodbye. But he has that sort of minor, like minor feel to me, like sort of like Midwest and like he's mining expert. Yeah, and that's realistic.
Dan,
that's
were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say I can't get over how good I, Tonya was. That's like every time someone says I, Tonya,
yeah, that's true.
What a film! Like, I know I've said it before in the series.
I love the director of I, Tonya. He's a fantastic director. So I'm glad it's, you know, these directors, sort of indie directors you follow for a little while, and then suddenly they do a film that sort of captures a nation, and then it sort of propels them. So I'm really glad to have actually seen that happen. So Ryan, is this you coming to terms with horror? Because I know that you don't watch horror, and in fact you refuse to watch a lot of horror. Even good ones, I try and encourage you. Hey, the horror is just supplementary to, you know, the themes or to, you know, this point. But you never you'll always refuse horror. Is this you approaching it?
I would say, yeah, it's like it's an approach of horror that is accessible in a way, because it's the horror in this is more the idea of John the Hangman, of the creepypastas thing of it. But then it turns out that it's the people, you know, like the real, you know, or is the Middle America, is the big oil company the real villain, you know, because they're trying to destroy this town.
To get their town back.
Yeah. So, you know, that sort of thing. I'd say that it's not really my terms of coming to horror. You know, I'm still not going to, you know, write this and then be okay with it, because some of them obviously do very fantastic things to scare the bejeebers out of you.
Daria, yeah.
I wanted to say, normally horror films, we kind of need to care about the characters, so they need to establish the work a little bit on who these people are and why do we care, because we need to be genuinely scared. And well, here's a bunch of families, which I think makes it a bit more difficult. But I thought could be cool if the viewer, we don't really sympathize with these people, because they're rich people who work in all industry. Sure. And so we as a viewer root for them to die. So it's the town people who are like cool and care about ecology. But they don't die. So kind of the bad guys win again.
Yeah, exactly. That's the true horror. Yeah. And they come in and they just rape this town, you know, and they just come in afterwards and just destroy it. Yeah.
And then also, I guess, in a way, because their escape is setting the shale mine on fire, you know, which is a devastating thing. And it's also that sort of idea of like, actually thinking about it, you know, you've come into this town, you've just done something that ecologically is a disaster, and now you're going to bolt out of there. Yeah. Like, it's Daria.
They just run away,
and they just get out of there, you know, because now the town is left to deal with this thing, and then the rest of the nation's left to deal with it.
Now you can even add this thing where the whole hangman stuff and all of this, it's not really a horror thing, it's just the town trying to drive them out. So they just fabricate all this stuff to get rid of them, and they scare the shit out of them, and they get into all of these scenarios where, you know, they put themselves in peril, but really there's nothing there. It's just the town trying to
and actually they die by accident, because, like, I don't know, the town people did something to the car, but it was not deadly. Yeah. And the guy died because he was also drunk.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So it turns into an accidental horror.
Yeah, so they sort of end up...
They're just trying to do something innocent, which is gently get rid of these people, and they escalate it through their own ridiculousness.
Yeah. And you give it this hardline horror feel, but you know what you're witnessing is just these idiots, you know, these sort of rich, entitled sort of people, who have come here for a nefarious purpose to trick these people. Yeah, they sort of finish themselves
almost get their
off.
comeuppance, yeah. It's sort of, it doesn't... That sort of aspect of it it moves it away from being a creepypasta than into sort of like, I guess, a reverse revenge film, I guess, in a way. Yeah. Sort of like, because we're always rooting for the person who got done on in a revenge film. But yeah, I sort of, it was interesting to sort of come up with this. I predicated this entire idea on the Creepy Kids rhyme, which I actually wrote first.
Best way to start a film.
There's nothing wrong with you, Ryan. That's a completely normal thing to do.
So I predicated this entire idea on the Creepy Kids rhyme, and then build it out off the back of that.
great idea, and we'll have to make one of our guests the Dupe more often, so you can come up with some preloaded ideas.
Thank you very much.
I would like to throw it over to Dan now and find out his take on the title Knock and Loose.
Hi. Well, so Knock and Loose is a British action movie set in a faux Robin Hood period of time, somewhere in somewhere between 1500s and 1600s, which is a bit later than maybe the original Robin Hood started coming about. And it focuses on the Robin Hood story that was never told, which is the story of Knock and Loose. And the reason it was never told is because they were two women.
That's good.
And so, but what
I just wanted to let you know quickly is that the untold story, the Robin Hood story never told, is the tagline of every Robin Hood movie that comes out.
Absolutely,
which is what I love about it.
And
is
that's
this
why
actually going to be the untold story?
Yeah, the untold story of Robin Hood, because he's never going to feature in it.
Right. Okay.
And so it's basically the Knock and Loose inspired Robin Hood to do what he did, I think, is what we're imagining. Of course, it's all utter faux historical nonsense, right? So we're talking, it's a Danny McBride script directed by Len Wiseman. So we're going full Underworld style, right?
Oh, wow, okay.
So, but they're trying to be dark and edgy, but they're not, because it's also British. So it's got that element of comedy in it as well, like the light-heartedness. So it's not quite, dark, gritty.
An American Werewolf sort of tone, that sort of comedy and horror type.
Comedy, less horror and more. We're looking like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves level of stuff, I think.
Okay,
but with what would happen if you did it modern day British, and so Knock and Loose are Freema Agyeman and Natalie Emmanuel. Natalie Emmanuel was in Game of Thrones, wasn't she?
Yeah.
So those two are Knock and Loose, and the film is loosely based around Countess Elizabeth Bathory. She was like a Hungarian countess she's known as the most famous female serial killer in history.
Oh wow!
She was known as the Blood Countess, and she used to beat peasants to death and stuff like that, and chew off parts of their face and what have you. She's like a proper nasty,
proper villain.
Yeah, proper villain, right? And so she's going to be.
I had my mic off, but I said, "Jesus fucking Christ!" You know.
I'm glad you turned it on to say that. Actually.
Yeah.
And so she's visiting England, and Knock and Loose find this out through some knowledge, and it is their plot to bring her down, effectively, and hijinks ensue. It's proper. The action sequences are proper good. Like they're feisty, they're brilliant, they're strong, and that's just the men. So when the women get involved, it gets stupid good. So we've got some the male actors in there. I thought would be like, I just saw Tom Holland do. I'm years behind it, but I saw Tom Holland do his lip sync to Umbrella.
Yeah.
That man.
It turns me on. Like I'm straight up like it does something to
that
me.
guy's like.
I love Rihanna. I literally in our living room there is a portrait of Rihanna that I drew, and that's the only thing I have it's not a jewelry, it's a pencil sketch. And I love it. And my favorite thing about it is how serious he is. He's not mocking it. He's not being. This is a silly thing women do. He goes full on.
He does, doesn't he? He gives it his all, his entire being.
His athleticism and with the Spider-Man stuff, I want him to feel live. So I want that kind of liveness within a male actor. And David Oyelowo, who I think would be a really nice. They're kind of like. Not the Little John and Will Scarlet, because they won't be their names, but they're
progenitors for them. Yeah,
and then we have the merry band of people and I think Naomi Scott would make an
Yeah,
appearance in there.
Yeah.
And Poppy Drayton, who was in the Shannara series, which I don't know whether you ever watched.
No.
And I'm very lucky because I've actually worked with her, and then I saw her in this series, and she's plays one of the elf warriors, and so I was trying to find some really physical female actors that could absolutely pull off the level of sword play, archery.
The girl, it's the girl from Logan. She's half British, half Spanish. She's also playing Lyra in his Dark Materials.
Yes, she'd be absolutely fantastic. Yeah, great shout.
So that's great. So I imagine this band to be of a few, like a few women that could come and go. And then our Countess I don't know whether it's... So her Countess definitely has like a handmaiden who is also her assassin. Or a person that comes and helps these things, and I can't work
with a mask, with a really sweet mask on at all times,
which would probably sway this decision now, because it's either Ruth Wilson with Karen Gillan as her assassin, or Karen Gillan with Ruth Wilson as her assassin. But it's those two people, and I don't know which one is which.
I can't imagine Ruth Wilson being an assassin for somebody else. She hires the assassin.
She is.
No, I think Ruth Wilson would be Elizabeth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think because Karen Gillan's
good in a mask. She's already done mask.
Yes.
She's in Avengers.
Nebula
in Avengers.
Yeah.
But we very rarely see Karen Gillan in her own face anymore. So that's why I was thinking we could actually see that. But they're your baddies. And yeah, it's a gratuitous action film. There's as much excuse to be slaying people, and maybe their thing is obviously Knock and Loose are your archery heroes, but maybe the others use different weapons, and that's kind of their style. It is mostly a style over substance film.
Yeah,
it's very Tarantino. It sounds very Tarantino. I mean, basically,
there is
sort of genre mashups and stuff.
I guess. I guess it would be
also a lot of murders.
Yeah,
a lot of badass
it would be
women.
Less bloody than a Tarantino.
It does not sound less bloody. You literally just gave us like a list of 20 female assassins.
Yeah.
They need...
It's brilliant.
I mean...
But
we'll cut around it. PG-13. We'll cut all the blood out, right?
In a way release. That it would, like with some of the Die Hard films and stuff are like massively action movies, but you don't... There's a level of blood, isn't there? There's a level of murder that happens in that. And there'll be loads of big set pieces, like an infiltration of a castle and stuff like that will happen.
A ball, some kind of ball,
where
they all have to pretend to be the servants and stuff like that.
Yeah,
love it. So that's Knock and Loose.
Have you got an action touchstone for it? Is it what in terms of action films? Because I'm writing a sort of outline for an action film at the moment, and so I've been doing a lot of research. And in fact, the film I'm writing it hinges on the idea that it has every type of action film in it. Okay. That's its conceit. Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of research into different kinds of action films. So I'm wondering if you've got a touchstone to funnel us down into a particular type of action.
It's really interesting. So I love the sleekness of like the Matrix fights because they're almost balletic, aren't they, in their fight choreography? And I want it to feel like that. I want it to feel like they're so totally in it. But not as far as the John Wick films, which feel like brutal dance, don't they? That feels too. Sure. I want them to feel almost supernatural, not quite.
I see a little bit of a wuxia vibe,
so you
but
get
not too much.
So you get 8711.
Yeah.
You get 8711 to do the fight choreography, basically.
Yeah, and
that team, right? It's Chad Stahelski's team.
A little bit of sort of House of Flying Daggers influence in there.
Yeah, House of Flying Daggers, Crouching Tiger, but with
more of a grounded, sure, with less wild.
I forgot the name. There is this film. It's about... I forgot the name, but it's like a cult film. It's a dude who has to fight with ex-boyfriends of the girl he likes.
Versus the World.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah.
That ends up going sort of full computer gamey, doesn't it? Deliberately as part of the style. So maybe a little less than that. And also I guess the touch point for me was originally like the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, the Kevin Costner film. but with decent action. So it's got like
and good accents.
And good accent.
Yeah.
It's got like a good story thread that you care about the characters and the peripheral characters, because they're not really peripheral. But anytime, the story arc's only there to get us to the next action scene, and after each one, it only gets better. Each action sequence is like, oh my god, how do they top? Oh my god, how do they top that? They're topping it.
So it's got is it a sort of indie film that punches above its weight, or is it a Hollywood film that has a bit of sort of edge to it? Where's its budget range?
I think it's a British film, like it's deliberately British, but it's given quite. I mean, it's got some players in there, so it's given quite a budget. I don't think it's like a full Hollywood AAA.
Is it like a real British film, or is it a British film produced by Americans, like Game of Thrones?
Or The Dark Knight or something?
Maybe it starts off and they end up needing more budget, and so they sell their soul. And that brings in a level.
You need a cameo from Dame Diana Riggs, who was playing the head of the House of Tyrell.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, she could be like the English queen or something.
She should be there.
That she's
have like a shirt.
She's like their patron, isn't she?
So Dan, what happens to Countess? That's what I want to know. What happens?
Well, they've got to defeat her, haven't they?
2 questions. What happens to Countess? And then because at the beginning you said this is like they taught Robin Hood. They sort of taught him. Is that what you're saying? Or
does he make a sort of post-credits cameo, like a young Robin Hood?
Maybe. So I don't think the Countess can die in England. Historically, that would be wrong. I mean, none of this is real.
Also, you can have that as a line in the film.
Yeah.
She cannot die in England.
Yeah.
It's like she's almost supernatural.
Yeah. Well, also, it can't be brought back on the English. But she gets sent on her way. She gets discredited. Her assassin definitely dies.
Yeah.
And it's this overthrowing of a countess that inspires Robin Hood to overthrow the sheriff.
Yeah.
I'm a bit lost because there was, like, as I said, a list of 20 female assassins. So the countess is the most bloodiest female.
She's the bloody countess, yeah.
And then there was a conversation between who should play her, Ruth Wilson or Karen Gillan.
Yeah, and we went for Ruth Wilson because
it's Ruth Wilson.
Definitely
it's no question.
No, it's no question.
Yeah.
I put it out there, and as I said, you knew it was wrong to question Ruth.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely it's Ruth Wilson, because she probably is twisted, but also like clever.
Yeah,
and I mean, if you haven't seen his Dark Materials, you should, because that's basically the character Ruth Wilson is playing in.
I guess so. Yeah, maybe that was why my brain didn't want her to be there, because we were but yeah, and another serial killer like in Luther, but obviously
she combined the roles. Sometimes an actor comes along and they
have you seen The Affair? She plays a completely different character there. So if you want to see him,
you're right. She's a bit sort of I don't know, more of a shrinking Violet. She's quite a strong character, but her personality recedes quite a lot. So you can have so she's quite complex as an actor, I think. So the big bloody final battle will be the assassin, and then she'll be discredited and she'll go off on a ship.
So maybe actually the denouement of that is that there's this battle that's going on, a high action thing, but at the same time there's some really calm political stuff going on right at the same time, and that Diana Rigg maybe pulls the final blow of that. The
lose.
Yeah.
And she can have the phrase when she decides the fate of the countess. She's like, well, so that's decided, knock and lose, and meaning that she's done.
Yeah, send her on her way. And then Sean and Ryan can go, pew!
Yeah.
Which is what we do every time we hear the title in a movie.
I like that. Sorry, that's my idea. But...
No, you can have it, mate. You can have it.
It's great. It's great. Will it be beset by reshoots? This seems like the sort of project that starts as like an indie darling and then ends up could be forced into a generic corner.
I think they end up fighting, and actually the actors fight against the generic corner. Okay. I think one of them is quite badly injured in one of the fight scenes. Viggo Mortensen got his 2 teeth knocked out and super glued them back in. I think one of them gets quite badly hurt and shooting stopped for a bit, but they all decide not to. They want the producer like, let's reshoot, let's get someone else in, and let's change it a little bit. And they all put their foot down and say, we're not coming back to the shoot.
Yeah, and it's one of those things in the news, and so they can't back down. They have to put on hiatus. They redo the script, they make it better, and they come back stronger.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like it. It's a tale of
resilience in the face of. And I think the action sequences are lauded. I think they really are. I can't think of maybe it's a new fight choreographer that comes on the scene is trying something new. There's definitely use of bullet time. There's definitely use of some CG.
What would be called arrow time, wouldn't it?
Arrow
yes.
time, yeah.
Arrow time.
And I think maybe they do. Maybe they come up with some slight new thing. And they call it arrow time, obviously in homage to, but there's something new in there. I can't imagine it because otherwise I'd be coming up with arrow time. And also that they try and make it seem real. So the CGI is used to enhance realness rather than so just that supernaturalness. So like adding an extra foot to a jump, not an extra 10 foot to a jump.
Yeah, sure. And it's that extension and enhancements rather than sort of all CGI sets.
Yeah, and that's what makes them even more impressive. Like scaling the wall, instead of them jumping in one jump, they are climbing, but it's just beyond what we would normally be able to do.
Like speed climbing in the Olympics. Have you ever seen that? Yeah. Like they are, you know, like Sean and I go climbing, and they, you know, you can see the techniques that they're doing them, but they're doing it 10 times the speed that we do them, and they are just, you know, going up these walls. So it's possible
to train.
It's possible to train to be able to climb.
Oh, that's some great behind the scenes that gets put out on YouTube before the film's released.
And they all have to train for months, and they all love it. They like really bond on this thing, and like they all get tattoos. Obviously, they all get tattoos, and they're never quite the same again. Like it's only ever made them all better, and they meet each other monthly. Doesn't matter where they are in the world, they meet each other monthly for like a knock and loose dinner. And,
a lot of Game of Thrones things happening here.
Yeah, for sure.
It's one of those experiences, isn't it?
Except this one ends well, I imagine. So,
well, I mean, it's not a Game of Thrones podcast, but I think the ending itself of Game of Thrones was actually good. It's the getting to the ending that was shit.
You mean like the getting to it within the last season, or
yeah. It's just I actually, as an idea of that ending, I think it's brilliant, and I like that there is a gender element to it. That maybe they didn't see her nature because she's a beautiful, tiny little woman, and they're like, oh, of course she's good. She's a woman. She wants to liberate, and I think it's just kind of getting to the point that they did it so quickly. It was shit.
Yeah.
But I think the ending itself was not bad. And like, I mean, that happens quite a lot. Has written a full book about it. That like when Putin came to power, I'm going to talk about what I know. When Putin came to power in 2000, he's been in power for 20 years. He was seen as a young, promising wind of change. He was like modern. He spoke German. He was like this cool, new, seemingly liberal guy. And that happens quite a lot. And I thought that was actually quite clever. It
is clever. It is clever, definitely. And to find out that you've been rooting for the villain the whole time. And actually, a lot of her acts are quite villainous, but they're covered up because you're seeing other villains. Really, the two people that are brother and sister having sex with each other, not that bad, you know?
And she always like all the people we did explicitly shown that all the people she is executing are shit people. Like only in the last season she starts executing people who are not shit.
Absolutely, yeah. No, you're right. So it was getting there. That was the truncated final season, I think.
Yeah, it's just. It should have been like 3 seasons, but they were like, let's make it in 1. And that's why it was shit. But I think the ending itself is actually quite good. Well, not the ending as it happened, but like in my head.
The concept of the ending, and what it meant. So how could...
I never really heard it put like that, Daria, and actually it's really interesting to hear it that way.
Yeah. So what can we? Yeah, thanks for that. What can we learn, Dan, from that? How would you end it? How would you? I know that we've got the Countess going off, but when you have something that is this powerful for everybody in the cast and crew, you want to give them that sort of their ending that stays with you. Give me the last scene or the last shot or some lasting image from it.
I think the last shot is that they feel like they cannot do any more than that, and so they go their separate ways, vowing to ever come back together if ever there is anything of that level that threatens this country. And they never get to come back together, despite there being all of that for other reasons that you maybe.
So earlier on in the film, they when they're young, they take their first bow from the wood of a tree together, and they form it, and then at the end of the film they part ways by placing their bows back in a tree of significance or something.
And
returning the wood back to them.
and to take it when it's needed,
when necessary.
Or one of the
and
characters,
then a young kid sneaks along. And
one
of
the
characters,
Robin Hood.
Yeah. I was going to say one of the characters.
That's actually very cool.
It's quite good, isn't it? I mean, it's not good, but it's good.
The bow gets taken.
Yeah.
I thought if one of the characters dies, they would put their bows on the pyre to let it, and that sort of it signalised the end of it.
It becomes the cross that they,
that they use to. That's the end of the second film when one of the Knock and Loose dies. And the other person uses the two bows to make the cross. And then Robin Hood steals it.
Thanks for that, Dan. That's a great idea. Thanks for that. So before we hear Daria's idea, the Dupe's idea for Knock and Loose, I'll just let everybody know what happens at the end of this episode. I will be picking a winner. And at the end of the season, you guys will be picking a winner. So we haven't really figured out how we're going to do it properly, but we're going to throw all of the ideas together. We're going to whittle them down in a variety of heats, and then we're going to get you guys to pick an eventual winner. And what will happen with that eventual winner is we will make it into a movie trailer. Whatever idea wins, whatever idea is picked, however good or bad it is, we will make that into a movie trailer with our limited resources. So nobody feel bad about losing today, because as I always say, the losers are the real winners. And the winner is the person who has to have their film immortalized by us. And we're no more talented at making trailers of things as we are at hosting podcasts. So
you are at hosting podcasts.
So enjoy. So I'd love to. This is quite a landmark for us in our journey. So I'd like to throw it over to Daria, our first guest that is also a dupe, and I'd love to hear your idea for Knock and Loose.
Oh, hello. So obviously my idea is not as fleshed out because I just came up with it, but I love ancient stuff, ancient Greece and ancient Greece primarily for the mythology, and it might be very literal, but so I thought of a film which is a comedy. It's a workplace comedy about Cupid.
Okay.
Oh,
that is phenomenal.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Go.
Let's all go.
We're all on board.
Go.
So I was thinking about where it should be set. It should be either set now or in ancient Greece. And just for the hell of it, I decided it should be set in ancient Greece.
Yes, of course it should. Yeah, and it has all the hallmarks of a workplace comedy, but set in ancient Greece. It's
exactly. Yeah, so it's a workplace comedy and in ancient Greece, and with the whole set of gods. So it treats all of the gods really seriously. So Cupid is one of them, and he is really fucking tired of what he does.
Okay, right.
So I don't know. I mean, obviously, I didn't have the time to think about it visually.
Sure.
But also, he's mistreated by everybody else because there are the star gods. There is even what he does is his boss is Aphrodite, who is an ancient Greek version of an Instagram influencer.
Yes, yeah, of course she is. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And she does no work but has all the fame. So he literally needs to go and do all the work for her.
Yeah.
And she takes all the credit. And So he is completely disillusioned, and like we do get bits of kind of. So at first he starts getting frustrated, and we get like bits of, but very very like rapid editing of like his first response. He starts to knock and loose really people who by no account should be in love.
Yes.
And we have like, I don't know, 3 love stories about those people. But like in the end, because he's Cupid and he is magical, it actually works out every single time. But every time it works out, it makes him even angrier because his point is to, he's frustrated. And so I don't know how this is the point, but he, in the end, he does something that he does achieve to fuck up massively, which leads to all of the Greek gods dying. And so that's the end of the Greek Empire, and the Romans come in.
Okay.
And so kind
of like a merger or a takeover.
Yeah,
and he ends up working for the Romans.
So
no, he's not. No, he's not, because Romans never treated God seriously. They just used them as branding. So it's like, again, the evil.
So
guys
he's there, but he's their branding now. So he's like,
even
he's still,
worse.
because he still exists, right?
Yeah, he still exists. Like every single god dies except for him, and he exists till now because people still fall in love. Well, I guess I guess like the Romans. So he somehow, I don't know what he does, but somehow something that he does leads to the collapse of the.
Can I say, so my favorite thing about Aphrodite is that she, you know, in the story she's married to Hephaestus, right? It's like the blue collar worker. So that story is always meant to me that like you can be like the worksmith and you can get the goddess of love, right? That's my whole thing. But maybe that's his first thing where he's like, you know what, you don't deserve to like date like is it Eros? Was really like hot guy. You don't get to date Eros. I'm gonna Cupid you with Hephaestus.
She was in love with Mars, the god of war.
God of war.
Right.
So I think that like that's Cupid's first like twist of the knife.
Cupid's first effort at messing it up.
And he sets so she sets Aphrodite up with Hephaestus instead of Eros or Mars. And that's and maybe because Mars is Aries but in the Roman, right? That's what.
Yeah, that's the thing. So what happens after like Romans just took the entire Greek mythology and renamed every single god. But what we just discussed that recently with Oli, that there is some scientific works, not books, just like research, where researchers say you need to, in order to understand ancient Greek, you need to think as if the gods were real. Like absolutely real. And then we discussed this with Oliver, and then we came to the conclusion that Romans did not think gods were real. They were just like using it as a reference.
I see.
And so in this film, kind of, I'm taking this as they were real in ancient Greece, and then they all died. And the Romans were just using like the memory and the images of that for politics. But that's the Cupid's doing.
I like if you said Aphrodite was in love with Mars, was supposed to get with Mars, and obviously Mars is what the Romans renamed Ares to. And by Cupid fucking it up, that causes all the Romans to then invade, right? So I guess, as you're saying, yes, I know they rebranded the gods, but you're sort of almost playing it with two fields here, where you have the Greek gods and the Roman gods. So you would have Ares face off against Mars, because she was supposed to be Aphrodite was supposed to be like the bridge building. I can't think of the term for it. The sort of to the ambassador to bring the Roman gods and the Greek gods together. But because Cupid messed up.
But the Romans don't have gods.
They don't have gods. So yeah, I mean, the whole idea is that not in this world.
They restructure in like a sort of
no, they literally come. Yeah, they literally murder everybody. They murder everybody, and then they just use like they keep using. It's like very dark in the end. So it's a comedy, but ends. It's a very dark ending
because they have like breakout rooms and they have like hot desking. They don't need the gods anymore. They're a flat structure, right? So
they are bureaucrat states.
Hierarchy.
They even build their streets in the exactly same way, and so but they're very clever, and so it's like so they murder everybody, but then they're like, we're never going to tell the people that the gods are no more.
Sure, we're just going to use their images, which is very sort of current, isn't it? It's very much like sort of I love how, can I throw in that maybe the demigods are middle managers? So you've got like Hercules is way above his station, isn't he? But really all he's doing is he's just there middle managing between two different places. He's not as big as he thinks he is,
No, yeah, absolutely. But he, again...
So maybe this whole Mars Aphrodite thing like escalates, like this love triangle escalates, and
Maybe here's an idea. Maybe he just like gets drunk on whatever they do, and
Very nice.
he normally he just sends, like, he's supposed to send 2 arrows, but here he somehow, and there should be a procedure which makes it impossible, but he somehow makes it possible. I don't know. Maybe he works with Hephaestus, because Hephaestus was the god of making
Forgery.
it
Forging.
forgery.
Forge.
And he really makes it so Mars, Aphrodite, and Hephaestus are in a triangle. And because he like stabs them all with the arrow, they can't do anything about it because they're now binded.
Sure.
But that's
that-
not meant to be.
No,
Yeah,
and that
sure.
leads to the inevitable like breakdown of the gods, to where they have, and because they live in their own sort of demi-planes, they have to come out. They decide they're going to have it out once and for all. All the gods are going to come down to Earth and have it out once and for all. Winner takes it all, right? And they all take sides in stupid man on away. They all come down, literally all of the gods, and that's the day the Romans invade and slay all the gods.
I love this, and if it could be a lot of kind of really stupid, because I want it to be comedy. So it could be a lot of really stupid things where the entire humanity is divided into like team Hephaestus and team Mars, and there is
That's
a
merchandising.
lot of merchandising happening. Yeah.
So
And
I've
that's
got a
like-
question. So there's a TV series called Plebs, which I think is an English TV series, and it's set in ancient Rome, and the main characters talk like they're like lads, sort of very English. But I think the exterior characters all sort of speak in this lofty.
How would you approach the dialogue or the tone? Would it be modern and that would be kind of funny, or would it be archaic language?
I would do 2 things. I would, again, because here it's kind of it's already, we established that there's already like parallels to modern media world, so they'll be among themselves, they'll be speaking very plain, but the moment they needed to address the people, they'd be like,
that's great.
you.
Then they would be all lofty and
Yeah.
Are we going full W1A when they're talking in that sort of advertising jargon?
Yeah.
I
have their
don't
own
know.
buzzwords.
I don't understand the reference.
Oh, it's a BBC comedy, and it's sort of a real mick take out of advertising and media, and they all speak in jargon the whole time.
Yes.
And then
Actually-
no one says anything of use,
No.
they just talk nonsense. And
No, it should be useful, but it should be like, I would really love that there's like a really offensive word that they use to refer to mortals.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And like somebody accidentally uses it like when
in
talking.
correspondence.
It gets CC to all, reply all instead of reply.
Yeah. And then they have to do crisis management and like invent what the word actually means.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
I like this.
Who's the guy, the messenger of the gods?
Mercury.
Mercury.
Oh, Mercury.
Hermes. I don't know. I don't know which. No.
Okay.
It's Mercury or Hermes, but I don't know which one.
Hermes. Yeah. So Hermes is the PR. He's the liaison, isn't he? He's the guy who, everybody in this coronavirus crisis are getting up on the microphone and everything they're saying is ludicrous and they're way out of their depth and they look completely nervous and completely sort of, definitely sort of not supposed to be there. So he is their PR guy that they wheel out, and every time they wheel him out, he just fluffs it up. This guy, he tries,
Well, in a like the delivery company. Like he goes to do it. He delivers a message and just runs. So he just like and goes. He's gone.
Yeah.
It's got so much to do in this.
Or I delivered your message. I definitely delivered your message.
Well,
and he
that's
hasn't.
the thing. Like, if you listen to these people, I can't remember the names of them because I try not to follow the news because it's stressful. But they just sit in front of the microphone, stand in front of the microphone, and they talk nonsense. It's vacuous. It's just rubbish. It's like none of it makes sense. It doesn't link to anything else. Particularly the gentleman in British politics who is the sort of coronavirus spokesperson for Boris Johnson's government. I can't particularly remember his name. But he just is nothing. He says nothing of use. He's just rambling. He's like a character from the thick of it. So it's like, so this guy, when you wheel him out, he's supposed to be the messenger of the gods, but everything he says is just
Jargon.
Just jargon and nonsense, and he's nervous. He shouldn't have been given his position, you know?
Yeah, I'm just a messenger. Why put me out in front of everyone?
And we see them all like that because, like, we see that through the eyes of Cupid, who's really, like...
And he's sort of... and I like that he knows he's done with all their bullshit, right? He's done, like, you're being so lofty to the people.
So are we going young and casting him like this cheruby Tom Holland type? I know we've mentioned Tom Holland already, but this Tom Holland type? Or are we going maybe someone with a bit more gravitas?
Here's the thing. That is the difficult thing about casting, because in theory, all gods should be young.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't know. I don't think it's necessary.
He feels like Tim in The Office, doesn't he? The only one that like can see how ridiculous everyone around him is.
I wouldn't cast Tom Holland. I mean, okay, not young, but they're just immortal, so they could just have one shape and they are there, and they could be different ages. But I don't know. He needs to. I think Cupid. It's crucial that Cupid is likable in this one.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It kind of he's too old for this now. But somebody like I forgot his name now, but the guy in the American Office who is married to Emily Blunt.
John Krasinski, who plays basically the American version of Tim from The Office. Yeah. So that's perfect. That's a good melding of minds.
Well
Okay, yeah.
John Krasinski, great.
But not him. I think he is too old for this now. Like, because he's in his 40s.
Sorry.
At this point.
Yeah.
So somebody like him. Well, I mean, it is Cupid. We're talking Cupid.
Yeah. And I do know what you mean. Yeah, there needs to be just slightly more of a youthful vibe. And I'd like to throw in, like, also you can play with how actors and actresses age out at different ranges in the public eye. So George Clooney would probably have to play either Hercules or Zeus, right? Zeus. Yeah. But then the women would have to be a lot younger, wouldn't they? And you'd only have one or two of Meryl Streep.
Well, I think it depends, because there is the Hera. There's Hera. Who could
that's
be.
Like a Meryl Streep type, obviously.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't...
Or Laura Linney or...
Laura Linney. No, I don't know. I will go with that in the sense that, Hera is cool. She's just underappreciated. So I don't know. I would. No, Lena Headey is too obvious. I would
Gillian
do
Anderson
somebody.
As Hera.
Gillian Anderson. Yes,
Hera.
I think that would be cool.
Again,
so she's like she is not. Her husband doesn't appreciate her, but she is not a shitty person. So I think I really like Gillian Anderson.
Yeah.
For Aphrodite, that's I think the most important casting, but I don't know who that.
Oh, who's the woman from the Hold on, wait. We'll cut this out.
No one wants to see the action that Ryan just made, by the way, to try and describe this woman.
I would want to cast somebody who's not white. Somebody,
yes, I agree with you totally. That's what I was about to say. Actually, like one of the striking things about Wonder Woman, regardless of what you think of the film or the actress, is that they didn't cast somebody white, which I liked.
Yeah, well, she is white. She just doesn't have blue eyes and white hair. White hair, blonde hair. But I would like Aphrodite to be. I don't know.
Christina Hendricks.
But she's too obvious, Christina Hendricks.
She's white. I'm sorry, she's white. And she's also too old. And now it's Ryan's not just for women. It's not just for women. It's because John Krasinski, for the same reason John Krasinski is too.
Yeah. Sure.
No,
I agree.
I actually even thought it would be really cool if there were literally not a single like blonde person, because this is in Greece.
Yeah,
like one, like the absolute minority would be blonde people, because it is ancient Greece and it's like closer to Middle East and Africa.
Yeah, sure. I think that's a fantastic idea. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's actually, I think, who would be Aphrodite? I couldn't. Maybe somebody from Black Mirror. In the episode San Junipero. The girl from the San Junipero.
Oh God, yeah. Well, the one from Blade Runner 2049, you mean, or the other one? The one from *Halt and Catch Fire*. She's got a sort of like a bob.
Well, I don't know.
Or are you talking about the other girl?
Yeah, I don't know their names. They're two girls.
Oh yeah. I know who you're talking about. Gugu Mbatha-Raw.
Yes.
We talked about her in another episode. Yeah. and probably pronounce her name 2 different ways each time. But I did my best.
Yeah.
No, she's a great
She
actress.
could be Aphrodite.
Yeah, and she's very underrated as well. I think she's the sort of actress that needs like a really good high-profile role to show her acting chops.
Yeah.
I
think. I think she. Well, to my mind, she could be Aphrodite. Easy.
So unless you've got any other suggestions, I would think let's close on like the poster or the marketing, or how does this go? Because this is so open-ended. It's got a wealth of ideas for how you market it. Do you push the comedy? Do you push the gods? Do you what tone do you want to strike when you?
I push the comedy. I push this. Well, I mean, I obviously want the very, very dark ending to be a surprise to everybody.
And good comedies do that, though, don't they? They really do. Yeah.
How they all die, and then we see how they use like the image of Aphrodite, but now she's rebranded as Venus.
Yeah, that's great. How about a mug that just says world's best god? Instead of world's best dad and people or world's best boss, it just says world's best god.
Yes, I think it's cool. Not gonna lose. I think it should be just a portrait of this guy, a Cupid, with like arrows and.
What about in a Tinder profile? So
yes,
yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. It could be Tinder profiles, like like a Zoom kind of thingy, where they're Tinder profiles of all the gods.
Yeah, or Insta, or their Insta profiles.
Different ones for different social media profiles in little boxes for each character.
Yeah, that's so cool.
With a picture of them,
and like Zeus would only have like one of he'd still have
LinkedIn. Zeus
has Zeus has LinkedIn. Of course he does. Yeah. Of course he does.
I got work experience. Have been ruling.
And who is it? Hades has just a picture of his 3 dogs. There's no the Cerberus. There's no way he'd have a picture of himself.
No. Hades has a Tinder profile, but it's like where he tells nothing about himself, but like you should be. You should be skinny,
white.
White. Yeah. Have all the legal documents to live in Greece. Be a citizen state, and so on and so forth. Yeah. I love that.
That's great.
Oh, just one thing on Hades. He would definitely be like an Alex Jones type, wouldn't he? Like the sort of, like he'd have a podcast where he's just like
podcast. Of course he would.
That's exactly what Hades would be like.
Of course he would. Oh, I love that. Thank you for that, Daria. That was fantastic. Lovely.
Well, thank you. I'm happy you like this idea.
So, just before I give you guys my idea for Knock and Loose. And it will be a short one because I think it crosses over a little bit with somebody else's idea, but also it's just a couple of log lines and some potential rather than a full idea. And after that, I will be picking the winner. But before that, I just wanted to say thanks to Ryan's idea of, he says he's not coming to terms with his fear of horror films, but I feel like there's something in there to pitch a horror film, but it sort of evolved into something where it's difficult to pick during the film who the good guys and bad guys are.
Know your enemy.
Know your enemy, and sort of this idea of big oil, and is it creepypasta? Is it folklore? Is it just something that they're fabricating? And I like this sort of keeping everybody on their toes. Dan's idea for Knock and Loose, a sort of British action movie set around the period of Robin Hood. But what I love about it, not only having 2 strong female characters and more at the forefront, and making a good movie, this sort of hybrid of Len Wiseman and Danny McBride. I think McBride, the comedian, but also wrote Halloween, and so he's got that sort of mixture. But also the idea of it being a progenitor to Robin Hood, the idea that it leads in to something else, but whilst also being its own thing, with fantastic cast, by the way, and just a fantastic sort of villain as well in this historical character. And then Daria's wonderful idea is Dupe, setting a fantastic bar, extraordinarily high, for a love conquers all type story, where the idea of the gods and bringing them down to our level, it's like almost like taking celebrity and bringing them down to our level, seeing them as people. This sort of vibe of The Thick of It, or even both American and British offices. this sort of workplace comedy about ancient Greece is just the absolute perfect mashup that is missing in this day and age, referencing Instagram and other social medias and influencers and all sorts of modern things, but also having this historical context where you take the way the Greeks saw the gods and the way the Romans saw the gods, and I think that's it's actually got quite a cool edge to it and a very dark ending as well. So yeah, my idea for Knock and Loose. This is another title that came in quite a long time ago, and it came in. So the title, it was one of these things where the birth of the idea / Dupe came from silly titles first, and then reverse engineering what Hollywood or other sort of outlets might actually make from them. So Knock and Loose is one of the early ones, along with This Train Terminates and a couple of others. So it's one of the early ones. So Knock and Loose came before the idea, and then I came up with the idea, and it made us all laugh. But funnily enough, so Dan, you took basically the same time period and some of the same conceits and made it into a good film. So because I had it as quite a bad film as my pitch, but this is what I think. So okay, my Knock and Loose is set in the same time period, but it's adopted brothers and sisters. It's Lucy and Knox, and they're adopted brother and sisters in the same sort of time period, same sort of setting as your idea for Knock and Loose, Dan. However, what it does is it chronicles, in a sort of, I don't know, in an ironic way, the birth of modern policing. So Knock and Loose are almost like a combination of a detective and a CSI sort of scientist. So someone who can analyze, like a tracker. There's this sort of evolution of a tracker. Someone who can look at a crime scene from that time period and figure out who done it, so they're both obviously there's all the parkour and action that you put into your idea, so I can skip all of that basically. But the idea is that they would go around and it would start with them, or maybe I hadn't really thought about this, but maybe the pre-credit sequence is a little bit James Bondy as well, so a little bit of a spy vibe to this sort of Robin Hood sort of esque tale, but the pre-credit sequence is them catching Robin Hood. So that's the pre-title sequence.
Nice.
And then there's the title sequence, and then you have these characters that, of course, yes, they're good with the bow, as you would be in sort of a crime drama. But really, it's like a crime drama. It's like Luther, but set in sort of medieval Britain. And you have almost po-faced, just straight-laced tropes of crime cop movies and CSI and stuff, but you have it in this world.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's sort of, I really don't have too much more than that, or at least not too much more that you hadn't put into your idea, which is,
I think an alternative of Sean's idea, back when we were laughing about it back in the pub, was maybe this idea of Knock and Loose being like, I was sort of like a Lord and Miller style buddy comedy, cop drama, but set way back when,
sort of Jump Street,
and a Jump Street, and then so you play on the sheriff of Nottingham, he's actually the sheriff, and they're his deputies or whatever. That was one of the things I remember laughing with you about, that sort of idea.
So it's I
would love that, but sorry, I'm loving this. I'd love to watch a police kind of comedy, like buddy cops, but with all the things of the time where neither of them knows how to read or write.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're both essentially peasants. Yeah, no one can read and write. Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, because I had it's sort of like A Knight's Tale, or something like that. It's that tone of sort of taken. Yeah, you're right. I think it's sort of changed in translation quite a lot. But you're right. I've missed that comedy aspect of the original idea. You're right. Yeah. Okay. I can see some of my notes here. Actually, there's the bard is the informant, of course, because the bards can go to taverns and listen to songs, but maybe he only gives them the information in song or in rhyme, because it's the only.
It's I can't tell you yet because I haven't come up with a rhyme for orange.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. They'll never know. Yeah, and one of them failed to kill a foreign king, and he was demoted, so he's gone from London, which of course is not the London that we know, but it was the London on the Thames, and they've been demoted to, this sort of backwater town. And there's, so you have all those tropes of.
I would love to see London. Actually, was London the biggest town back then?
I think I actually don't know that, and it would be interesting to find that out. I know because it was on the Thames, that's why it established itself as such a sort of hub. But yeah, at the time, would it have been one of the biggest sort of towns?
Yeah. Because it would not. It could be like you've been demoted from whatever is the biggest town
to London. Yeah, that's even better. Yeah, that's fantastic. And they even back then they're like, well, this is a shithole. No one wants to go to London. And you have all those jokes in there as well, don't you? Yeah. That's brilliant. And so that's literally it. That's the end of my notes, and I haven't got any actors. I haven't got any ideas. I just thought, that's a sort of procedural cop drama, but a comedy, and set within that period where you take all of the, like the fact they can't read and write, and the judicial system is completely, you can't really follow a proper judicial system there at that time, and all this sort of stuff.
And so it'd be really fun, it'd be treated seriously, but them having for real fights about. So our next witness said that he was there at 2 a.m. and the other person's like, no, he didn't say that, and they have no proof, and they fight with each other because neither of them can read or write.
Exactly. And how do you would obtain proof or anything or evidence or anything?
Exactly,
it's ludicrous, but they do their best.
Also, someone's like, "What is 2 o'clock?"
Yeah. Are you talking about when
the sun is up, or when the
when the church rang 2 times?
That's it. Yeah. So it's got potential, right? But it's not. It's by far the weakest of the 4 ideas. And I haven't got an idea of who would play, any in it at all. I have no idea what actors would be in it.
We can just keep Dan's cast.
We'll just keep Dan's. Dan's will be retooled. This beautiful story that he told about how his film would become this amazing touchstone for so many people's lives is the behind the scenes of the potential of what it had. They all thought it would be that, and then that Island of Dr. Moreau film they made, it was turned into this instead. And it's 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. But yeah, so okay, this has been very difficult to pick a winner, and it's one of these things where iteratively each idea topped the last, and it's not. I can't remember who was in which order, so I'm not insulting anyone.
I was first. So
yours was the worst. But yours was the worst of a good bunch. That's a good place to be, Yeah. But each idea came out stronger and stronger, and it's not like me to sort of. I don't know. I have to, Dan, you're going to hate me. Yours was on a hair's breadth.
Hashtag Dan was robbed.
Hashtag Dan was robbed. Hashtag Ryan was robbed as
Dan,
well.
your idea, I was like, this is the winner. This is a surefire winner. Dan's, I would love to make this. I'd love to see it. I mean, it crosses over with my idea. That's not the reason why, but it's so in my head as what Knock and Loose should be. I was like, there is no greater accomplishment than Knock and Loose for the title for your idea. It could not get better than that. And then Daria as the dupe just pulled it out of the bag with just that log line. That's it. That's a log line that you could sell to a producer and they would go, here's 40 grand, go write the script. It's just
what
a log line, a log line is just the
a workplace comedy.
A workplace comedy set in ancient Greece featuring Cupid. That's a log line. That's just the key features of the idea in one line. And you just did it. And it just got better from that point onwards. It really did. So even if you had just left it there, I would have gone, okay, Daria's the winner. So for that, Daria, I want to say, and you're right, it has such potential, and it's such something that, as I said in the recap, that is missing. There is an area of comedy that is missing this idea quite deeply. And as much as I loved Dan's Knock and Loose idea, perhaps we don't need another untold story of Robin Hood, even though that was what I would have gone for Knock and Loose as well. But what we do need is this sliver of sort of The Office meets the Greek gods. So thank you, Daria. That's fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
We should do that more often. I think make the guest the dupe and see what they can come up with.
I feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
That's just the wine.
Well, then now you know.
It probably
It's just
Now
the
you know how
lockdown
the
juice.
Is
opposite-
it called-
It's the opposite of how I feel.
I'm sorry, Dan.
I'm sorry,
You look
Dan.
genuinely upset as well, don't you?
Well, it's a good one. It was to be fair, they've all been
It was a
good.
good
I
one.
think what we're going to do is a sub
dynamite,
series
Dan.
where it's like all of Dan's ideas, and we vote on those, and we see which one wins, and we make a trailer of that one.
I don't have a problem with putting all of your snubbed ideas into like to an adjudicator
Into a wild
as we were
card.
just into a wild card and whittling them down into Dan's best idea, and then that goes into the
Well, it's
final.
probably the best way because none of my ideas are ever going to make it. Daria, you did deserve
Yeah.
that one though. It was an amazing pitch, definitely.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Would rather
Thank you
watch
so
yours
much.
than-
It really was. It really was. So yeah, just before we go, I just want to say, follow, like, subscribe. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on iTunes, Spotify. It's the same thing, iTunes and Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Google Podcasts. I mean, it's everywhere. And I've said this before, but sharing is caring. Like, if you can get this out to people outside of our network and into your network. And if you like it and you promote it for us, then it gives us just confidence to go on and
Make more
and
content.
do more.
I will get you the Russian vote.
Yes, please do.
Please do.
Please do. Send it to all of your Russian network.
Those of them who can listen to 2 hours of English.
Yeah,
That's true.
I don't even think the people I know can listen to 2 hours of what we put out. So that's but yeah, no, thanks for that. And yeah, everyone else at home, just remember we count on your support, your likes, your subscribes, your follows, your
comments,
your
in
comments.
Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. We've got a Reddit as well. Join the conversation.
Yeah.
Start pitching us. Start giving us titles, because then we might pick one and then we might pitch it. And hell, if you want to be on, we've got Daria as a guest. Comes in as the dupe on a guest in our first shot and wins it. So,
Daria, you have a book that you want to promote. You can.
Wow, I didn't know that I want to promote this book, but probably well, whatever. I wrote a book, but it is in Russian.
Mhm.
It's about Barcelona. It's a nonfiction book about Barcelona. So if you are one of my Russian friends listening to this, I have a book called "Что такое Барселона? Пляжи, хамон, независимость." Наоборот, пляжи, независимость, хамон, which translates to English as "What is Barcelona? Beaches, independence,
And ham.
Hamon."
and ham.
Yes. I got that bit.
I know that one. I know that word.
That's great. Where can you get that, Daria?
If you live in Russia, you can get that in any major bookstore or online on Ozon.ru. Or if you live in Barcelona, then the best way is to write to me. And I am currently out of the books. It's been so successful. But at some point when the lockdowns are over, I will get more books.
We'll put your contact details in the description block as well, so that people can get a hold of you if they need to. So yeah, that just leaves me to say thanks to everyone today. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Sean. It's wonderful to not dupe and have a chance to pitch properly.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Dan. I'm sorry.
Look, it's fine.
Hasbro.
It's fine. I cry myself
I'm
to
so
sleep
sorry.
every night.
I feel like the Cupid that fucked you over.
Yeah,
I am
your
the
idea
Greek
shot
gods.
me with the arrow.
I'm the Greek gods that were slayed at the end. Yeah,
Your time will come, Dan, and it will be glorious.
it will be. It will be.
It will. And just leaves me to say thank you for you, Daria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. It was fun.
And thank you for listening at home. Cheers.
Hello, that was super cool,
Hey,
Daria. I'd never
Yeah,
really
nice one.
thought of that subversion
Of what
Because-
specifically?
for Game of Thrones. Like because I'd seen the other side of it where people were like, "Oh, well, of course, you send the woman mad because she's mentally unstable. Of course, that's what you do at the end of the season. How to undermine a character that you sent has stuck to her morals the entire way through, despite being abused in every single way that you can possibly be abused as a woman, and she's still stronger for it, goes through it, and then in the last season you decide she turns mad, and so I've seen that, and I've hung on to that because I thought that feels quite wrong, do you know, to do that. But then to see it the other way, which is to actually she is the villain right from the beginning.
And that's the thing. I mean, for example, I never watched Handmaid's Tale because I know what it's about, and I'm just sorry, no, I don't want to spend my free time watching that shit.
Yeah,
there's
it's misery porn, isn't it? As well,
misery porn, and I'm not interested. And here's the thing: there is Sansa. There is a person who does all of what you just said, and doesn't, and is completely sane, and is abused like in as you said, in every single possible way you can imagine, is also dismissed and so on and so forth, and betrayed by many people, and she comes out of it stronger, and she is a good leader, and we have no doubts that she is a good leader. She is like the one who is the sanest at the end of it all. So it's not like the creators of the show are misogynistic, but I don't think feminism means like every time there is a woman she needs to be the best.
I think you're right. Not being scared for her to be the worst as well.
Actually. Exactly. And I do think that and it's actually also is a feminist perspective, that it's not on Dany, it's on everybody else who's just looking at her and who are all men and are like, oh, you're a beautiful woman who has dragons. And like even Tyrion is like, because who is clever, Tyrion literally trusts her. I think 70% of his trust is that he's in love with her.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that she's not shy about what stuff she does and she's willing to do. Is just people are taking her through their own lens until the very last moment.
Yeah, love it. I love it.
Yeah, God, you're right. That's quite fascinating, actually.
Recorded in the Capo Studios 2020. What's up, Danger?